Cameras in general are getting more and more advanced throughout the years. From cameras as big as a house with a resolution of 0.1 megapixels to today's smartphones that can go as high as 200 megapixels at the size of your palm. It is amazing to see how technology evolved throughout the decade. This year, there are a few smartphones that caught our attention not only because of their performance, design, and foldability, but most importantly, their ability to capture images that is comparable to today's point-and-shoot cameras. What's up guys, Earl here with Tech, and join me as we pit Huawei's latest flagship device, the Huawei P60 Pro, against the Xiaomi 13 to compare which of these smartphones has the best camera system. A little disclaimer that we will be taking photos using the standard out-of-the-box settings, and we will not be using AI color features on this comparison. As you may know, Leica has been Huawei's partner in developing their smartphone camera way back in 2016 with the launch of the Huawei P9. There has been a fair amount of hype back with the P9 as it is one of the few smartphones that were released with a dual camera setup. Unfortunately, last year, Huawei announced that they will no longer be partnering with Leica. Instead, they made their own camera technology called the X-Image, which is an imaging system now on Huawei's latest flagship entry, the Huawei P60 Pro. Xiaomi, on the other hand, has recently partnered up with Leica to improve their smartphone cameras, and we are now seeing it with the Xiaomi 13 and the Xiaomi 13 Pro. People are saying that the partnership between Leica and Xiaomi are done just right, but we'll see that in this video. For starters, the Xiaomi 13 Pro packs a 50.3 megapixel wide with an aperture of 1.9, a 15 megapixel telephoto lens with an aperture of 2.0, and another 15 megapixel sensor with an aperture of 2.2 for the ultra-wide camera. All these lenses are made by Leica. The Huawei P60 Pro, on the other hand, packs a 48 megapixel primary camera with a variable aperture of 1.4 to 4.0, another 48 megapixel sensor for the telephoto with an aperture of 2.1, and a 13 megapixel ultra-wide lens with an aperture of 2.2. Now for selfies, we have a 32 megapixel wide selfie camera on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, while on the Huawei P60 Pro, we get a 13 megapixel sensor. Now onto the exciting part, the sample shots. Let's start with both the Xiaomi 13 Pro and the Huawei P60 Pro's primary camera. Looking at these sample shots of an artwork, you can see that both devices produces good images, no doubts there. The Xiaomi 13 Pro's photo is 3 counts much saturated than the image captured by the P60 Pro. Onto this photo, you can see that the image on the Huawei P60 Pro produces a much sharper image than the Xiaomi 13 Pro, although we suspect that the sharpness is applied by post-processing, but nonetheless, we dig the image on the P60 Pro than the Xiaomi 13 Pro in this instance. The HDR processing on the P60 Pro are much more noticeable as compared to that on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Overall, both the image taken on the P60 Pro and the Huawei 13 Pro using the main camera are both great. Although there are differences in contrast and color reproduction, it really depends on the taste whether you want a warmer image or you want to go for a much more cooler tone. Now moving on to the P60 Pro and the Xiaomi 13 Pro's telephoto cameras. The telephoto lens on the P60 Pro shoots at 3.5x, while the Xiaomi 13 Pro shoots at 3.5x, so take note of that slight difference in framing on these samples. Now checking out this building, we can see that the photo on the P60 Pro produces brighter skies, and the copper-like color of the building are much more justified as compared to the shot of the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and the details are also much more observed on the P60 Pro. Now taking a closer look at this photo of a giveaway sign, you can see that the image on the P60 Pro are slightly brighter than the Xiaomi 13 Pro, but both images looks okay with sharp details and good color reproduction. Now moving on to this photo, you can clearly see that the P60 Pro wins here. The image taken on the Xiaomi 13 Pro looks a bit washed out and there is a little to no detail. The image on the P60 Pro, however, looks detailed. Zooming it in a little, you can really see that there is a huge difference between the two images. Same story on this photo. Now, taking a look at this speed limit signage here, you can see that the photo on the Xiaomi 13 Pro looks more saturated, which has more pronounced greens and reds as compared to the image taken by the P60 Pro. The image on the Xiaomi 13 Pro looks a little bit contrasty as compared to a little pale treatment we got on the P60 Pro. On this photo, we have a completely different story. As you can see that the photo that came out from the Huawei P60 Pro looks a little bit less saturated as compared to the image taken on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Although we still do get that haze look on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, as well as the details are a bit washed out as compared to the image we have on the P60 Pro. The same thing also on this image that we took. But here, we prefer the image on the Xiaomi 13 Pro as it gives us true-to-life color reproduction as compared to a very contrasty image that we got on the P60 Pro. We went a little gaga on these cameras and test these telephoto lenses to its limits. As you can see on this photo, both are digitally zoomed in by 100%, and you can clearly see which one takes the cake here. Although both images aren't usable by any means, but hey, you can observe the amount of details we have on the Huawei P60 Pro. Now moving on to these smartphones' ultra-wide camera. Looking at these ultra-wide images, you can see that both the P60 Pro and the Xiaomi 13 Pro's image looks almost identical with a slight difference in tint. Image taken on the P60 Pro, you can observe that it does look a little greenish, while the image taken on the Xiaomi 13 Pro goes towards the magenta side of the spectrum. But nonetheless, both images presents ample amount of detail as well as contrast and saturation. Here on the next image, we can see any difference between the two images. Both gives the right amount of detail we need in this photo, as well as the right amount of exposure on the buildings and the sky, and clearly we have a tiebreaker on this shot. Now on to the next image, we can observe that there is a slight vignetting on the photo taken on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Image looks a little bit darker too as compared to the P60 Pro. We get ample amount of details on both photos, but we prefer the image taken on the P60 as it gives accurate representation of the scene that we are trying to capture here. Moving on to the night mode on both of these devices. Night mode image on the Xiaomi 13 Pro can look a little bit saturated in some cases. Night mode on the P60 Pro, however, looks a bit natural but dull at the same time. Both can definitely brighten up a dark scene, and it all boils down to your preference. If you want to have a saturated night image, the Xiaomi 13 might be your best bet here, but if you want to have basic night mode looking image, the P60 Pro is for you. Now moving on to portrait mode, we think that the P60 Pro wins here. I mean, just look at these samples that we took using the P60 Pro versus the image we have on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. It isn't to say that the portrait mode on the Xiaomi 13 Pro is any worse, no, but we think that the bokeh effect on the P60 Pro does look natural and slightly resembles to that of average DSLR cameras. Now when it comes to video, the P60 Pro can record up to 4K at 60 frames per second, while the Xiaomi 13 Pro can record up to 8K at 24 frames per second, which is amazing. Both cameras perform very well, stabilization is present in both cameras, making your videos buttery smooth. But without a doubt, the Xiaomi 13 Pro takes the cake in this segment because it can record 8K, and man, it is that sharp. The P60 Pro on the other hand can also capture great quality 4K videos, and both produces right amount of saturation as well as contrast, and just like how they take photos, both of these devices produce videos with ample amount of detail and sharpness. And there you have it guys, this is our camera comparison of the Huawei P60 Pro and the Xiaomi 13 Pro. In our case, we think that both these devices performs well in the camera department. We can really say that one is better than the other here. Some cases, we think the P60 Pro is better than the Xiaomi 13 or otherwise. What we can say here is that it really boils down to your preference really. If you want a much more cinematic color reproduction and want to join that film look that the Gen Zs are craving for, or you just want to have a readily editable image on the go, the Xiaomi 13 Pro is your best choice here. But if you are the type of person who wants a DSLR-like type image and is shareable right away with no editing or tweaking, the Huawei P60 Pro is the best for you. Not to mention, you can also have the ability to shoot moon photos. Pretty cool. And yes, we did a poll on both IG and Facebook, and majority of you voted for the bottom photo, which is taken from the Huawei P60 Pro. Funny thing, because almost all of you who chose the bottom photo thought that it was taken using the Xiaomi 13. But I hate to break it to you again, those photos are taken with the Huawei P60 Pro. Now for pricing, we have 58,999 pesos for the base variant 8 gigs plus 256 gigs Huawei P60 Pro, and 59,999 pesos for the 12 gigs plus 256 gigs variant for the Xiaomi 13 Pro. And for that price, it is really that hard to choose between the two. If you are interested on these two devices, we will be putting our review video links in the description box below. But for now, what do you guys think about these camera comparison of the Huawei P60 Pro and the Xiaomi 13 Pro? Which of these smartphones are your bet? Do let us know in the comment section below, and if you find this video helpful, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit that bell icon so you won't miss any future uploads, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and visit youtube.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Once again, this has been Aurel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.